Alright, I thought I'd have a go at a little tutorial here just to pass on some of the knowledge that I've gained from over 500 hours in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 on PS5. Now, this is for the Airbuses, so if any of you are interested in getting up and flying in an Airbus nice and quick, then here we go. Right, first things first, we go into free flight. Now, I'll be using the Airbus A330. You could use any of the Airbuses, but if you want to follow along with this, it's probably wise to just choose the same thing. We'll do all the same stuff. So in departure, let's get this up and running. You just want to put EHAM in if you want to follow the same trip that I'm doing here. So we'll just select a gate, doesn't matter, any gate. Not that gate, this one. And arrival will be trusty old Heathrow, EGLL, and I've got that as runway 9 left. So again, you maybe just want to make sure you've got the same bits and bobs that I have here. Now, before we actually just jump straight in and start the flight, the next thing to do would be to bring up the EFB, or as I will be calling it from now on, the iPad. So on the iPad, click on the flight planner, and you can see here you've got your little tabs down the left-hand side here. So, what is it? The third tab, flight details. Just click on that, and then this top box here it says VFR. These are the flight rules. So in order to have the autopilot do everything for us, and we can descend and we can get into a localizer and glide slope and all that good stuff for essentially automated flight in a airliner, you want to change this to IFR. So it's just a drop down box, change that to IFR. Now come back to the top tab, route. Now I do just click that just to let the system decide it's not going to be that, so just leave that at that, make sure that's ticked, and then scroll down and you should see find route. So click that, and what that's going to do is still keep us with the same departure and arrival, but it's going to create an IFR flight for us. So it's already done a departure procedure. Now yours may be different to mine. You may want to just leave whatever it does for you, or you can always click change here and select different procedures and different transitions to go with that. So if you have something different and you want to choose what I've got, it's that one there, IDR I2N, and that's direct, and then you would just click change procedure. So that's the departure. Keep scrolling down, and this is where having a mouse wheel makes things a little bit easier, but just slowly scroll down there, and then we've got the arrival procedure, LOG A2H. Again, if you've got something different, you can just click in there and select the same one. And then the approach procedure, and without complicating things too much, an ILS procedure will use a localizer, and an RNAV would not. So an ILS and LOC approach procedures would require you to hit the localizer button on your autopilot panel, but an RNAV one and obviously a VFR one would not require you to do that. So I always like to choose an ILS approach if possible, and it should have already done that for you. So depending on what runway you're landing on, it will be an ILS and then the runway, and I've got via LAM. So that's pretty much that. That is our flight plan, and you can see that that's all down here. And once we go send, and you can send to just avionics, or you can do ATC as well. I'm going to do ATC as well, just for the purposes of this flight, so you can also see that it's created all of the checkpoints. Let's get rid of the clouds here. Let's just show you can do wind and rain as well there. There we go. Turn that off. And you can see, yes, it's done all of the waypoints there on this map, so you can see everything. Right, that's it. Let's get in. Let's get into the plane. Let's get going. Now, first things first is we have to do the job of these grounds people, because you're bloody useless. You're bloody useless, people. Why? I'm the pilot. I've got... It's just outrageous. Now, there we are, Steve. Good. He's already on waiting. Good chap. We're very casual here on my flight. Very casual. Sports casual. Right. I won't go through the cold and dark start for one simple reason. I do not know how to do a cold and dark start. So we press the magic buttons to get everything on, and the goddamn last person in here didn't turn their bloody windscreen wipers off. What is wrong with this person? Every time after... I bet he does. I think he does that on purpose just to piss me off. Right. This is very quick and simple. This is again how I do it. So we've got our departure, excuse me, and arrival already in there. Ground. So click on payload, and you can see you can add passengers and cargo and fuel and all that good stuff. So I'm going to leave all of that empty for the time being. Obviously not fuel, because that's tend to be quite useful. So we'll click apply load, and again you can choose. I want to sit here for 40 minutes. I don't know why you would choose that, but let's just choose instantly, so it just applies the load. That's right, instantly. Payload applied. Fantastic. Right, now come down to takeoff. Now this is where the Airbus is fantastic, because it will automatically put in all of the departure conditions for you, hopefully. So if we click sync, there we are, that's filled all of that in, and it's filled in our weight as well. So now we come down to here, and we click calculate. There we go. Click calculate. And it's done all that good stuff for us. And again, just under that, this send to FMGS. There we are. Data sent to FMGS. And that is pretty much that. You can put the lights on in the back there if you want. Open the doors. Do all this sort of stuff from here. So anyway, that's that. The next thing to do is to look down here and go to the computer. So I'll bring up the iPad as well. We've got our routes, everything here. So this is the FMC, or the calculator as I like to call it, and this is where you do all of the routes and all of that. So first of all, you need to click clear, get rid of all of these messages, make sure there's nothing in the scratch pad at the bottom, and then we can click FM1. Just give that a second, and now here we are. Right, so you click perf. There's only two real things you need to do on it, and then that's it. Click perf. These are your V1, rotate speeds, and V2 speeds. Alright, so you should already have this information there, because we've just done it on the iPad on the left of us there. So you just have to click confirm to data, and you see it's filled in those fields there with those numbers. That's grand. Good to go. Next phase. CI, cost index, basically is a number from, as far as I'm aware, might be wrong. In fact, all of this might be wrong, disclaimer, but this is how I do it, and it works for me. Cost index, how fuel efficient you are, how much it wants to burn fuel. So 20 is quite lean, so I'll put 70 in there. You can put 50, 70, you can put whatever you want in there, but it might be an idea to change it from default 20. And then we've got the flight level there as well, and we just check what our flight level is. It's actually 140. Just check. So yeah, we come back to climb, and we can just change that to 140. So you put FL for flight level 140, and then just click the soft key next to the field that you want that to be dropped into. Done. Okay, so on to the next page. This is the cruise page. Don't think we need to do anything there. Descent page, again, all looks good. Alright, and here, the approach page is the only one that you really need to fill out a lot of stuff. So, come all the way down to the bottom here, and this is where we've got our arrival airport, and next to that you can see we've got a blue information. So click that and it will add this purple section to your tabs, and this is all information, charts and all that stuff to do with the airport that we'll be landing at. So go to weather, and here's all the information that we need to basically fill out in these fields. So Q and N is the air pressure, so you just put 997, and again click the soft key next to that field. Temperature of 8 degrees, pop that in there, and then the wind. So it's 080 at 8 knots. So we go 080 and then a slash to separate the numbers, and then the 8, and then just click on the soft key next to that. And then one last thing to fill out, it says baro or radio. What this basically is the minimums, which is the height of the runway, because not all runways are at 0 feet. So to find that out, we just check what runway we're landing on, which is 9 left. Come back down to the information tab. So I just clicked on the routes tab, obviously, to get back to this information here. Then back to the I tab. 9 left. I just realised it does say it there too, if you just want to quickly glance up at that. So click on runways. 9 left. And you can see that we've got the ILS frequency there. We'll come back to that. And we've got the elevation, 79 feet. So just type in 79 and click next to the baro there. And that's that. Alright, so the next thing is F-plan. And if you've been in a Boeing, that would say legs. So this is essentially the legs page in a Boeing. It's your flight plan. So we click on that, and here we can see we've got our flight plan. Instead of next or previous page, we've just got these arrows here. And of course, to scroll down, you push up, and to scroll up, you push down. So let's scroll down here. You can see all of our things, all of our vectors, our checkpoints, whatever. You can see here top of cruise, or yeah, top of cruise. Keep coming down here through all our checkpoints, and then you've got TD, which would be top of descent. So that's when we would start to come down. So you can see the flight level changing from 140 down to 069. Keep coming down, and there we are. That's the airport and the runway. And then in blue, I believe that's to do with the go around procedures. Now you can see here it says F-plan discontinuity. I don't think that matters because it's at the end of the plan. If you do see this anywhere through your list, and if you're doing a different flight, you may well see this. Well, you need to get rid of that, because that will stop you from following the GPS autopilot line. So if you wanted to do that, you can just click clear and then click the soft key next to that. The only time that that doesn't work instantly is if you've got manual written up above it. And if that's the case, you just need to delete manual. So you click clear and click that, and it will probably drill into the actual vector and show you information to do with it. Doesn't matter, just click down here to sort of go back, return, and then just do it again. You click clear, you click the soft key next to manual, and it will delete it the second time. I'm not sure why that happens. There may well be a much better way of doing it, but again, this is how I figured out how to do it, so I thought I'd just let you guys know. And then you'd be able to click clear and delete the discontinuity. Discontinuity. What a horrible word that is. Discontinuity. Right. And as long as that all looks like that, then that is good to go. You can click F-plan to get to the back of the top of the list again, so you don't have to scroll all the way back up. And that is the calculator done. Last thing, before we take off, is just to change the air pressure, the Q&N, at where we currently are, at our departure. So come back to the route tab and scroll to the top and click the I button next to your departure airport, and that'll give you all of the information just like before to do with the departure. Click on weather and we can see we've got an air pressure of 1001 here. So we just need to change this to 1001. If yours are showing a different set of numbers that start 29.92, then I would suggest just clicking the, as you see here, there's two parts to this wheel, and that's how you toggle between the two different types of reading. Inches of mercury and hectopascals. So we want hectopascals, and change that on both sides to whatever your Q&N will be, because it probably won't be the exact same thing that I've got here, because these things do fluctuate like the wind. One last thing, well, there's probably many more things, but one last thing here is just to change your flight level to whatever that's going to be. And for me, that's going to be 14,000. As you can see, we've got a flight level here, a cruising flight level of 140. Alright, that's pretty much it. Alright, there's a few little things that I like to do just before we set off, and that's obviously make sure that the flight director is on, which it should be on by default anyway. And again, you can just double check all of these settings are on by having a look at your PFD here and seeing what's in blue or green or white. So we've got FD 1 and 2, that shows us that flight director 1 and 2 is on. And you need the flight directors on in order for the autopilot to work correctly. I click the LS button next to that. I'm not even sure what it stands for, because it shows you all the sort of glide slope information. So I would say that should be GS, not LS, but whatever. Localizer slope, maybe. Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe. Right. That's everything, I think. I think that is pretty much everything. So let's get going, because this is it. All this waffling, you don't want to know waffles. Let's get on with it. Let's get on with it. Don't want to overcomplicate things, but you want to make sure that your flight plan is all good. You can come to here, you can change that to plan. Look down here. Cycle through the checkpoints with the arrow key, and you can see that you can go through the route thusly, just making sure that it all looks good. There's no brakes in it, nothing like that. Do a nice little U-turn, and then we land. Beautiful. So that's just by changing that to plan, put it back to arc, and obviously you can just choose what sort of radius you like on that, how zoomed in or zoomed out it is. Let's get going. Get out of my way. I'm a real person. You're a pretend person. No, I'm not stopping for you. Get out of my way. Right. I'm continuing taxiing, don't you worry. Don't you worry. Okay, let's just get our A-OK to go. Alright, while we're waiting for our clearance to come through, just make sure your strobe is on, your beacon is on, ring lights on, nav lights on, runway turn off lights off, landing lights on, and that to take off. The only other thing you want to make sure you've got on before you take off is this probe and window heat. And obviously you've got your anti-ice there if you would need that later on. Okay. Click auto throttle. I don't know if you need to do that or not, but I always do, so I'll do that. And we also... Yes, I heard you. Wait a minute, woman. Right. Now, look down here. That's up there. That's there. I don't know where I'm going. Here we are. And now, yeah, make sure your flaps are in the correct place. And go flaps. One, again, you might want to do differently. Oh, hang on a minute. That's very important. We've got to make sure that the passengers are aware. Seatbelt on. No smoking sign on. Now we're ready. Excellent. Right, like to increase the throttle. Let go of the handbrake. Okay, obviously there's not too much to this process, you just floor the accelerator, get it going. Now you should see there on the PFD, your left hand screen, it says main toga, all that good stuff, lighting up. So keep going until we see our V1 VR speeds on the left there. Now we can rotate now. Just as well, because we would have crashed straight into that chap there and killed everybody. Right, we're up and we're off. So wheels up, flaps up, and we can engage autopilot at this time. We'll do a hard left in a second, I should think. Acknowledge the handoff.
119.175 for Sheepish Papa, Echo Papa.
And there we go. We're up and out. So yeah, sorry, autopilot is there if you want to engage that. I just have that mapped to a hotkey, so I can just engage and disengage autopilot without having to do that. That's how you would turn it on and off there. So you can obviously see that we've got autopilot on now. If we have a look at, not that one, if we have a look at our screen here. So we've got autopilot 1, flight director 1 and 2. We've got auto throttle on, but it's in blue, which means it's armed, but not active. That's mean because I've still got sort of main throttle. If I do that, there we are. Bring the throttle down to about the middle. You can now see that auto throttle is active. So throttle climbing with navigation. So again, if we just come back to the autopilot panel, you can see there's no speed information, but this dot, and again no heading information, but this dot. And we do have our altitude because we've dialed that in with a dot. What the dots mean is that we are on navigation mode. We are locked into our flight plan. Basically, you want to see these dots. These indicate that we are, as I say, on the flight plan. It's all good. Now, you can change this. Now, this is where I'm going to mess around and things will go wrong for me maybe, but you can click this and you can see manage, heading mode, or selected heading mode. You can push or pull. So if I wanted to change where we were going, I could select a heading, and then you push or pull the knob, basically, see? So pull it. Now, we're going to follow the heading of 325. There's no dot anymore, and it's given us that little auditory noise there to show you that we're no longer on navigation mode. And again, we come to here, you can see, instead of saying nav in green, it says HDG, so we're in heading mode. And the line is a dotted line, not a solid line. And we've got a solid line that shows us our heading on the map there on the right hand side of the radar. So I'll go back to this and I'll try and undo that. Go back to that. Now, what we have here is that we are still following that heading, but you can see nav is armed in blue. So if something's gone wrong and you've gone off the path, click to heading mode, get your direction back in line with where you want to go, and it will just automatically take over once we get close. So we'll use this heading and we'll spin it round. So it re-intersects our path. As you can see now, we're back on nav mode and back on this line here, but that didn't work initially for me because I just learned something new. I was heading for a different waypoint to the one that was active on here. So in order to sort that out, you just select the next one that we were heading to. So in this case it would be Sabre. Come back down here, click direct, and there's Sabre, but say it's LAM 30. You click LAM 30 and that would go to the top, and then you just click there and that sets that as the next current active one, and then that all works. Again, I'll explain it how I do it. There may be better ways of doing it, and if there is, please do let me know in the comments. But I like to have a look here and basically see when we start getting close to the descent, what sort of height would I need to be at in order to capture the glide slope just before the runway. So you can see here the last few altitude indicators, 2,500, 1,400, and then onto the runway. So if we have a look at our approach, as I say, we go in, do a U-turn, start coming back down again. So obviously the glide slope is in a straight line out from there. So IAA 10, IAA 75. Yeah, there you go. So 3,000 to 2,500. As long as we're about 2,500 when we get to this point here, we should be in line with the glide slope. So I put 2,500 into the altitude selector. Just do that by obviously twisting the knob there, and have that pre-armed as our go-to height when we start descending. Alright, so if we come into the flight plan once more, just scroll down a little bit, we can see there's our top of descent, and that's just before LAM 30. So we have a look back on our screens here. There you go, you can see LAM. Now this here indicates the top of descent. If you've flown the Boeings on there, it's literally a T stroke D on the line, but in the Airbus they've got an arrow pointing down to show that's the point at which you will want to start coming down. It will not do it automatically. Again, unlike a Boeing, which will start its descent automatically, you do have to do one small thing in the Airbus to do that. So when you get to that point, which we will do shortly, I've cut to it, you'll see that it says T stroke D reached, and when that happens, come to the altitude to select it, and for me it's right click, but it would be X or square on the pad to push it into managed, and that would start the managed mode. It's sort of, again, it's armed but not active yet. So in order to activate it, that's all you need to do. Alright, so seeing as we're getting to the top of the descent, very close to it now, let's just again check what our arrival QNH is, 996. So let's just go ahead and change that now in there so all of our readings are accurate. That's that. Looking good. There we are. T/D reached. You can see that's just appeared there. Now there's no alarm, there's nothing, it's just that in small writing. So whatever. So click on here, as I say. Now click manage mode, and you should, if we go back to here, see it says throttle descent on the left, and then descent, and we're coming down. It's all good. There's a green dot here that sort of indicates the perfect descent path. So hopefully at some point we'll catch up with that, and when we do, here it comes, it should stay in the middle. So let's just see if that happens. Here we go. Perfect. You might move around a little bit, go up or down a little bit, but generally you should notice that stays in the middle. That little green dot, and that shows you that you're bang on the descent path, and everything's golden. So now we can let it bring ourselves down. One last thing just to mention here, as you can see, I've got 2,500 dialed into the altimeter, but in our flight plan, go back to that with the route tab, you can see we've got a restriction there of 7,000 for LAM 30. You can see we have that restriction there, so it may well level off at 7,000 all by itself, but then it will come down if necessary. And what you can do is click this button here. If we go back to the screen, you can see that we've now got those flight levels on our checkpoints. So as we're coming down and around, we can just make sure that we're all at the right heights and everything's on track. So that's okay. See, it just needs to sort out the speed. So it's had to lessen the angle of descent in order for us to slow down, and you can see that it wants to slow down to this speed here, so it wants that to sit inside there. Once that happens, you can see that we're increasing our descent again. So we've gone throttle idle now, and again you can see that this is starting to catch back up to us again now. Go. The only thing that we've got to do really is worry about the localizer button here and the approach button here. I'm gonna click the localizer button, and again down here you can see that that's now in blue, which means that it's armed but not active. Now I'm going to start dropping some flaps. So that was the perfect time for flaps 1, which was about 240. Now we're on the localizer. You can see that that's now kicked in over the nav mode. So we're now locked into the localizer
Traffic. Traffic.
Again, next stage of flaps, about 200. See, that glide slope indicator is just below us at the minute, so I hope we'll catch up with it. I'm going to get the gear down. I think we might be too high here. Going to work for me. I think we were too quick, maybe, coming in. So I was a little bit high then, so I dropped it using Versus mode. Now that's it. Now we're on the glide slope. Hopefully that should have just all worked out for you there. But if that sort of thing does happen, you can use Versus mode here to increase your level of descent, and then just try and intercept this diamond here. That's what it's all about. As long as you've got that local approach mode armed, again it will say GS there, and then just aim to get that in the middle, and that will arm, and now we really are locked in. So you want to make sure you've got your flaps fully extended, obviously your gear down, because that always helps. And if you can see past the mesh of names, then you should be able to see a runway somewhere down there. I maybe need to map a button so that I can quickly remove everyone's name for these sorts of situations. But there we are. So we're basically locked into the tractor beam that's taking us straight down to the runway. We've got the localizer, which is essentially a tractor beam to the centre of the runway. And we're in a glide slope, which is a tractor beam pulling us down to the runway.
500.
That light went off as soon as we had this on. Don't worry about that. You can see that it's still on because it's in green there. So don't worry about that light turning off when that happens. Right, we're just about to touch down, so I'm going to disengage autopilot at this time and try and land this. So yeah, this isn't rate my landing.
200.
Go easy, but this is for tutorial purposes only. I'm sure you're all better at landing than I am.
100.
We're coming down.
100 above.
You want 2 red, 2 white, ideally.
40. 30. 20. Retard. 10. Retard.
He's not being rude. He's not being rude. Right, dip the power down. I didn't do auto brakes, but we're down. I always forget auto brakes. Auto brakes are here if you want to click low, medium or high before you land. That's usually the idea. Slow us down a bit. And here we are. So again, you may well find that your one goes a little bit smoother than that. I had a few little issues there, but we were able to overcome them, and hopefully if you do have similar sort of issues, you may well know how to deal with them as well. So yeah, I hope that has helped. If there's anything else or I've missed, or it's something that I could do better, then please let me know in the comments. all that good stuff. But yeah, hopefully that's helped somebody out there. So if it has, awesome. Alright, cheers guys. I hope to see you out there in the skies.